The first time I heard my voice used against private, it was like listening to a ghost accuse itself. Reading minds, the room was dark, predicting except for the faint blue and silencing anyone who dares to resist. The screen flickering with the distorted audio Mara Quinn that someone somewhere hidden pieced together buried deep within the network. It wasn't just a recording. She realizes the truth. It was a lie built from every voice she hears might not be human. I sat frozen in my apartment as reality fractures tightly over my ears and what's programmed. As the words spilled out, Mara must decide, expose the same thing and risk vanishing, or stay silent. The voice was mine, become one unmistakably, yet fundamentally altered a sinister even your thoughts aren't your own. My name is Alex Mercer. I've spent the better part of a decade protecting others, specializing in the very technology now weaponized against me. Voice recognition, security. I knew the systems, the protocols, the vulnerabilities, but nothing prepared me for this betrayal. The hack was precise, surgical. Someone had stolen hours of my voice recordings, conversations, commands, casual chatter, and manipulated them into a damning narrative that painted me as a traitor. The knock on my door was sudden and cold, shattering the fragile silence. I didn't need to look to know who would come. Government agents, dressed in black suits that absorbed the dim light like shadows themselves, waited patiently. Their faces were unreadable masks behind dark glasses. One stepped forward, sliding a warrant across the threshold. Alex Mercer, you're under arrest for treason against the state. The words hit me like a blow. I opened my mouth to protest, but no sound came. The voice that had betrayed me now silenced me. They moved in swiftly, cuffing my hands, their grip firm but clinical. I was hauled out into the cold city streets, the neon lights casting strange colors on the wet pavement, the hum of distant traffic underscoring the surreal nightmare unfolding around me. In the sterile confines of the interrogation room, harsh fluorescent lights flickered overhead. A wall of monitors displayed manipulated voice samples my voice, warped and twisted, accusing me of crimes I hadn't committed. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and despair. I felt isolated, a man stripped of his identity, reduced to a collection of sounds that no longer belonged to him. I demanded to know who was behind it, who had the skill, the resources, the motive to orchestrate such a precise and devastating attack. The interrogators offered no answers, only cold stares and repeated accusations. Their words echoed in my mind, blending with the false voice recordings that haunted my every thought. My grip on reality began to slip. Was I really a traitor, or just the victim of a cruel, technologically sophisticated conspiracy? Every shadow seemed to hide a watcher, every whisper a potential threat. I was trapped in an echo chamber of paranoia, where my own voice had become a weapon against me. Then came the moment I realized the only way to survive was to disappear. I had to escape, to run from those who sought to erase me from existence. Late at night, under the silver glow of neon signs, I slipped out through a narrow alleyway, the city's sounds muffled and distorted like the voices that now haunted me. The cold air bit at my skin, but I didn't stop. Trust was a luxury I no longer possessed. As I fled into the labyrinth of the city, I knew one thing. I had to uncover the truth behind the stolen voice before it was too late. The stakes were higher than I ever imagined. This was no longer just about me. It was about the fragility of identity in a world where sound could be manipulated, trust shattered, and reality twisted beyond recognition. I paused for a moment, breath shallow, heart pounding. Somewhere out there was the architect of this nightmare, Evelyn Cross, a name whispered in the shadows, a ghost in the system. She was the puppeteer pulling the strings, and I was the marionette cut loose, struggling to find my footing in a world of echoes and lies. The hunt had begun. and I was already running out of time. The sudden crash of the door shattered the brittle silence of the night, jolting Alex Mercer awake. His heart thundered as he scrambled upright, the faint glow of his phone screen casting eerie shadows across the sparse room. There was no time to process. Footsteps pounded the corridor, deliberate and unrelenting. Alex's breath hitched as the door burst open. Agents swarmed in, faces masked by cold indifference and the clinical efficiency of betrayal. "Alex Mercer, you're under arrest for treason," one barked, voice clipped and devoid of warmth. The handcuffs clicked around his wrists before he could protest, the metallic cold biting into his skin. His mind raced, trying to grasp the absurdity. The agent who had dedicated years to safeguarding the very system now accusing him. Questions collided in his mind. Who had orchestrated this? How had they turned his own voice against him? The ride to the detention center was a blur of sterile lights and muffled voices. Alex's thoughts spiraled into a whirlpool of paranoia. Every whisper, every echo of his voice on intercepted recordings seemed twisted into a weapon aimed at dismantling his identity. When they led him into the stark holding cell, the fluorescent lights flickered, casting long, unsettling shadows. It was then that he realized the fragility of his world built on trust in technology, now weaponized to obliterate him. But surrender was not in Alex's nature. As the guards turned their backs, distracted by the buzz of incoming orders, he seized the moment. Using a hidden blade concealed in his booter habit from years of fieldwork, he cut through the restraints. The agent's shouts filled the corridor, but adrenaline surged through his veins, sharpening his senses. He bolted, feet pounding against cold concrete as he navigated the labyrinthine corridors. Bursting out into the night, the city greeted him with its neon haze and relentless rain. The slick pavement reflected fractured colors, mirroring the fractured reality Alex now faced. The sound of sirens chased him, but he melted into the shadows, every step a desperate bid for survival. The chill of the rain mixed with the heat of his exertion as he leaped across rooftops, heart hammering in sync with the pounding rain. Safe, for the moment, in a cramped safe house, Alex hunched over a bank of monitors. His own voice echoed back at him, distorted and weaponized, a cruel reminder that even his identity was no longer his own. The recordings twisted words he never spoke, painting him as the traitor. The room felt suffocating, the bluish glow of the screens casting ghostly light on his weary face. Paranoia gnawed at him, whispering doubts. Was any ally genuine? Was the past he remembered even real? His thoughts were interrupted by the sharp buzz of his earpiece. A voice filtered through, warm yet laced with an undercurrent of menace. "Alex, it's me. We don't have much time. You're not alone in this. But be careful, anyone could be listening." The line crackled, the voice wavering like a fragile thread of trust in a storm of deceit. Alex's grip tightened on the device, the rain's persistent tapping on the window a grim reminder of the relentless siege he faced. He was caught in an echo chamber of lies and fear, where every sound could betray him and every silence could conceal a threat. As dawn crept over the horizon, Alex knew one thing with chilling clarity: there was no turning back. The hunt had begun, and the shadows whispered his name. The city woke, unaware of the fugitive lurking in its depths. Hunted not just by the law, but by the very voice he once trusted as his own. The game was set, and Alex Mercer was the hunted, framed, isolated, and running out of time. He had to find the truth before the echoes of his stolen voice erased him completely. But who was really pulling the strings? And would he survive long enough to expose them? The night was far from over. The air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and electronics, as Alex Mercer stepped through the narrow doorway of an unremarkable building nestled between the towering glass facades of the city's high-rises. The faint buzz of neon signs outside barely penetrated the gloom inside, where the soft blue flicker of multiple monitors illuminated a cluttered apartment. Maya Lin sat hunched over a desk strewn with cables, hard drives, and open notebooks. Her short dark hair was tousled from hours of concentration, and her observant eyes scanned lines of code cascading down the screens. When she looked up and caught sight of Alex, her expression flickered with surprise, quickly replaced by a guarded warmth. "Alex," she breathed, standing to greet him with a cautious embrace. "I wasn't sure you'd come." He forced a tight smile, rubbing the back of his neck. "I needed to. They're getting closer." Maya glanced toward the door, then back at the monitors. "You're not safe anywhere yet, but I've been digging. There's more to this than just stolen recordings. Someone's weaponizing voices, twisting them into lies, weapons of accusation." Alex lowered himself into a battered chair beside her. "I've heard the whispers, but seeing it, hearing it, it's like my own voice is betraying me." Maya nodded grimly, pulling up a series of audio files. The distorted waveforms scrolled past as she played a clip, a voice identical to Alex's, but threaded with threats and confessions he never uttered. The manipulation was chillingly precise. "They're using deep learning algorithms," Maya explained, eyes never leaving the screen. "It's not just mimicry, it's rewriting the truth. They can fabricate conversations, create false evidence that sounds utterly real." Alex swallowed hard, the weight of the revelation settling over him like a shroud. "Who's behind this?" A flicker of hesitation crossed Maya's face. "There are factions, some rogue elements within the intelligence community, others shadowy groups with political motives. It's a tangled web, and we're caught in the center." Suddenly, the monitors flickered as the room was plunged into darkness. The abrupt silence was broken only by the distant hum of the city and their rapid breaths. "Power surge," Alex whispered, his senses sharpening. The faint sound of footsteps echoed faintly down the hall outside. Maya reached for a flashlight, illuminating the cramped space with a narrow beam. "We're not alone." Alex's heart hammered in his chest. "They're watching us." They moved quickly, gathering data drives and securing laptops. Even as they worked, Alex's mind raced through every shadowed corner of his past, every trust betrayed, every ally turned suspect. The lines between friend and foe blurred as paranoia seeped deeper. Later, in the relative safety of the apartment, they pored over the voice files again. The more Alex listened, the more his own memories seemed to warp. He questioned events, conversations, even the sound of his own voice. The echo chamber was closing in. "How do I know what's real anymore?" Alex muttered, staring at a cracked mirror on the wall. A manipulated version of his voice crackled softly from a speaker nearby, layered with false confessions and veiled threats. "You don't," Maya said quietly. "Not until we expose them." Alex clenched his fists, determination flickering behind his weary eyes. "Then we start at the source. Whoever's behind this, they'll regret the day they stole my voice." But as the shadows lengthened outside and the city's hum pulsed like a heartbeat, the question lingered in the stale air. Could he trust even himself anymore? The night stretched on, thick with tension, as the allies prepared to face an enemy hidden in the echoes of a fractured past. The truth was out there, buried beneath layers of deception and digital lies. Finding it would mean risking everything, including the last fragments of Alex Mercer's sanity. And somewhere, just beyond the reach of the flickering lights, the conspiracy waited, listening. The glow of the monitor was the only light in the small, cluttered safe house where Alex Mercer sat, headphones clamped over his ears. The room smelled faintly of stale coffee and old electronics, a scent that seemed to anchor him amid the chaos swirling inside his mind. As the distorted voice filled his ears, it was unmistakably his own yet. The words were alien, foreign. "I confess to the breach. I am a traitor." He pressed a trembling finger against the pause button, hands shaking as he tried to reconcile the familiar timbre with the damning message. It was a recording his voice, yes, but altered, manipulated with such precision that even his trained ear had taken time to notice the subtle discrepancies. This was no ordinary forgery. Someone had weaponized his very identity. The screen flickered as he replayed the audio, the waveform rippling like a treacherous ocean beneath his scrutiny. He zoomed in, searching for the telltale signs of tampering, microsecond shifts, unnatural modulations, layered overlays. Each anomaly confirmed his worst fears. His voice was no longer a marker of truth, but a tool of deception. A sharp knock at the door startled him. He yanked off the headphones and opened the door to find Maya Lin, her face illuminated by the glow of a portable device displaying complex code and spectral analyses. "I found something," she said quietly, stepping inside. "The edits aren't just surface level. They've embedded false phonemes and spliced segments to create confessions you never spoke. It's sophisticated military-grade tampering." Alex nodded, swallowing hard. Who would go to this length? "Evelyn Cross," Maya whispered, eyes darkening. "She's more dangerous than we imagined." The mention of Evelyn's name sent a cold shiver down Alex's spine. He had glimpsed her shadowy presence before, a ghost lurking in the edges of his investigation. Now, her influence was undeniable, a puppeteer pulling the strings behind the scenes. As they worked, Alex's mind drifted, haunted by memories that now felt suspect. Had his own recollections been compromised? Was the voice whispering accusations the voice of truth, or an echo chamber of carefully engineered lies? Outside, the city pulsed with neon life, oblivious to the silent war unfolding within its depths. Alex stepped onto the balcony, the cold night air biting his skin. He scanned the crowds below, every whisper a potential threat, every shadow a possible enemy. His paranoia deepened, a gnawing presence that threatened to consume him whole. Hours later, back inside, Maya pointed to a series of encrypted surveillance feeds. "Look here." Alex leaned in, watching as a slim figure appeared in the grainy footage. Evelyn Crossed herself. Her eyes, cold and calculating, tracked his movements with unnerving precision. "She's watching you," Maya said softly. Alex clenched his fists. "Then I'm running out of time." The weight of betrayal pressed down on him, a suffocating fog that blurred the line between friend and foe, reality and illusion. In this world where voices could be hacked, twisted, and weaponized, trust was a fragile currency, and his own voice had become his greatest enemy. As the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, Alex knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the echoes and distortions lay the truth he had to find before he lost himself entirely. The hunt was on, but the question lingered. If his voice could not be trusted, what remained of Alex Mercer? And somewhere in the shadows, Evelyn Cross smiled. The game was far from over, and the echoes of doubt would only grow louder. He had to hold on to the fragments of his fractured identity, even as the darkness closed in. The night was far from over, and the echo chamber was closing tight. The rain beat steadily against the grimy window of the interrogation room, a soft, relentless percussion that seemed to echo the pounding in Alex's chest. The cold, sterile light from the overhead fluorescent bulb flickered intermittently, casting long, jittery shadows across the cracked linoleum floor. Across from him sat Detective Ryan Holt, his furrowed brow knitting tighter with every passing second. The man was a tough silhouette, weathered by years in the force, with tired eyes that held a mixture of skepticism and something that almost looked like respect. But Alex couldn't be sure. "Not yet, Mr. Mercer," Holt began, voice low and measured. "You understand the gravity of the charges against you. Treason isn't a small thing." Alex met his gaze steadily. "I know exactly what they're accusing me of, and I know it's not true." The detective's mouth twitched, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk. "You think it's that simple? Someone framed you?" "Yes," Alex said, voice taut, because my voice was stolen, manipulated. "You heard the recordings, right? They're fabricated." Holt leaned back, folding his arms. The room fell into a thick silence, punctuated only by the buzz of the faulty light and the distant rumble of thunder outside. Alex watched him carefully, searching for any sign of conviction. "I've been handed a file," Holt said finally. "And that file says you're guilty." But he hesitated, eyes flickering with doubt. "There's something off about this case. Political pressure. The brass want it wrapped up fast." Alex's heart quickened. "Then you believe me?" "I don't know," Holt admitted, rubbing his stubbled chin. "I'm a cop. I follow the evidence. But evidence can be twisted, just like voices." The detective's conflicted stance was a fragile thread Alex clung to. "Help me. We both want the truth, don't we?" Holt looked away, jaw tight. "Help you could get me suspended. Or worse, then we'd do it quietly." Their conversation was interrupted by the distant clang of a metal door slamming. Holt glanced toward the hallway, alert. Alex followed his gaze, sensing the unspoken warnings lurking in the precinct's shadows. Later that evening, Alex found himself alone in a cold hallway lined with flickering monitors. The murmurs of officers and government agents passing nearby felt like whispers of judgment. Holt approached quietly, lowering his voice. "You're not the only one being watched," he said. "There are eyes everywhere higher ups who don't want this mess uncovered." Alex swallowed hard, the paranoia tightening its grip. "How deep does it go?" Holt's gaze was grim. "Deeper than you think." Back in his cramped office, Holt sat before a flickering screen, reviewing security footage from the night Alex was taken into custody. The images blurred and glitched intermittently, subtle edits that suggested tampering. He muttered under his breath, frustration and doubt coloring his words. "This doesn't add up." He paused, rubbing his eyes. Who's really pulling the strings? Alex's encounter with Holt was a pivotal moment, crossing of paths between two men caught in a web of deceit and conflicting loyalties. Despite the tension, a fragile alliance began to form, shadowed by suspicion but fueled by the flickering hope that truth might still prevail. As Alex left the precinct, the rain had stopped, but the air remained heavy, thick with the scent of wet asphalt and uncertainty. Somewhere in the distance, a voice echoed, familiar yet distorted, reminding him that in this world, trust was the rarest commodity of all. "You're not alone in this," Holt's words lingered in his mind. But was that a promise or a warning? The game was changing, and Alex knew the next move could mean the difference between survival and complete erasure.